This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Couple of topics that I want to get into here. We have a new and major Micah Parsons update, and Philadelphia could be getting a big break in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, considering what is transpiring with one of the top pass rushers in the game in Micah Parsons. Also, these two surprise wide receivers who have come out of nowhere are making things very interesting throughout Eagles training camp as far as the roster battle goes at that wide receiver position behind A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jahan Dotson. Who are those two wideouts? Stay tuned to find out. I do want to begin here, though. If you hate the Cowboys and you love the Eagles, since we're talking about Micah Parsons, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video right now. Show me your true fandom. As for the latest on Parsons, a lot going on here over the last few days, as we know. Diana Russini, NFL insider for The Athletic, reported on Friday morning that the situation between Parsons, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, was so bad that Parsons could get to a point where he's so fed up with the organization that he could demand a trade. We did a video on that on Eagles Now. It picked up 80,000 views. It popped off. And we talked about the possibility of Parsons requesting and demanding that trade. Well, what happened a few hours later? Parsons took to his X page on Twitter and he wrote a book. And he said that he officially submitted his trade request to Stephen Jones, co-owner of the Cowboys and son of Jerry Jones. And what's wild about this situation is that the Cowboys could have signed Parsons to an extension last offseason. They could have gotten him for $35 million per year. That would have made him the highest paid defensive player in the history of the NFL. They could have avoided all of this drama, this entire contract saga, and the focus under a first-year head coach would have been all about footballs. The Cowboys tried to flush that 2024 season, which was a disaster considering the expectations that were on Dallas heading into that year. Instead, the Cowboys have waited to pay Parsons. They have cost themselves millions of dollars, and that led to this trade request from Micah. Then, a few days later, after the Russini report and the Micah Parsons novel on X, Jerry Jones did an interview with Jane Slater of the NFL Network, and it was a long, windy interview that went in a couple of different directions. It was classic Jerry, where he had all of these old school sayings, and you weren't sure where he was quite going with the points that he was trying to make. And of note in that interview from Oxnard, California, that's where the Cowboys have training camp, Jerry claimed that the Parsons deal was done months ago, earlier this offseason, without the contract being written or signed. You don't believe me? Here's a direct quote from the Cowboys owner. I bought the Cowboys with a handshake. It took about 30 seconds. I gave the number, shook hands, the details we worked out later. Well, Jerry, I have a message for you. That is not how contracts work nowadays. That's not how contracts work in any line of business, whether it's oil money. I know you're familiar with that. If it's in the corporate world or if it's in professional sports. When you're dealing with an athlete and their agent, these contracts need to be written and signed. Eye contact and a handshake is not going to get it done. There's also this reporting from Todd Archer of ESPN. He covers the Dallas Cowboys as a beat reporter, and he expanded on Jerry Jones's thoughts here. In March, Jones believed that he and Parsons had reached an agreement on a deal when it came to the contract length, guarantees, and overall money, saying what he offered was, quote, a hell of a lot more than you think I did. Jones also referred to guaranteeing somebody almost $200 million. As far as how Parsons is handling this, I think he's handled it quite well considering the circumstances. Oftentimes we see a lot of holdouts and players not reporting to training camp. They take to social media to let their grievances be heard when they're unhappy with their current contract situations. Look, to Micah's credit, he reported to training camp on time. He has not posted anything cryptic on his social media pages. He did demand this trade, but the Cowboys forced him into a situation where he kind of had to do that, and it's easy to see why Parsons is unhappy with the organization. They handle things in a very chaotic, dysfunctional way. Parsons has been taking part in walkthroughs, but not in drills. That's understanding because he doesn't want to get hurt, because he has no financial security beyond 2025. In 2025, he is set to make $21.32 million on his fifth-year option. But the more that this drags on for the Dallas Cowboys, the more that we wonder if Micah Parsons will play Week 1 on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field, as the Birds will hoist their second Lombardi banner since 2017 right in front of Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones isn't all that confident that Parsons is going to be able to play either. From Todd Archer again, Dallas Cowboys owner and GM Jerry Jones is not confident that Pro Bowl edge rusher Micah Parsons will be available for the September 4th season opener against the Philadelphia Eagles. No, absolutely not, Jones said after Tuesday's joint practice with the Rams. A big part of that is his decision. How would I know that? Jones was asked when the urgency for a deal would increase, and he eventually said, "I am urgent." Not sure what that means, but this is what I do know. This is like a comedy skit. The Dallas Cowboys, ladies and gentlemen, are a circus. And that's why it's so easy to make fun of them. And that's why it's so entertaining for us as Eagles fans to kind of poke fun at the Dallas Cowboys, because they bring it onto themselves. Say what you want about Parsons, though, as you look ahead to this Week 1 tilt against Dallas on Thursday night, September 4th, to open up the 2025 season. He is one of the best defensive players in the entire National Football League. And no Micah Parsons greatly enhances the Eagles' chances of winning and beginning the season 1-0. And the more wins that you can stack up early in the year, the better for Philadelphia, considering they have one of the most difficult schedules in all of football. Philadelphia right now, 6.5-point favorites. The odds makers really like the Eagles by nearly a touchdown. That's a pretty significant number there, and the total over-under 46.5. If it becomes clear and evident that Parsons does not play, and if he's scratched in the lead up to that game, I wonder if he is worth about a half point or so on the betting line. Speaking of this game, I want you to predict the score down in the comments section. Cowboys, Eagles, Week 1. That begins the 2025 season. Let me know down in the comment section right now. We're going to get to two surprise wideouts who have come out of nowhere to have really good training camps for the Birds. But I got to tell you about this deal. For a limited time only, these Saquon Barkley Kelly green jerseys, Nike, thanks to our friends at Fanatics, are 20% off. But you have to use our exclusive link in order for that discount to apply. It's chatsports.com/Saquon Kelly. We're going to put this link down below in the show notes attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it's chatsports.com/Saquon Kelly. 20% off. Get yours today so that you can be geared up by the start of the 2025 Eagles schedule. All right, to the back half of the show. Two surprise Eagles wide receivers, who are both undrafted free agents, have come out of nowhere to make things very interesting throughout Eagles training camp, to really challenge and push Aniyah Smith and Johnny Wilson for the wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5 spots. The first player is Elijah Cooks, who I'm pointing to here. 6'4", 215 pounds. He was a 2023 UDFA. He played his college football at Nevada. Then he transferred to San Jose State. He was with the Jags the last 2 years. So far in his career, 11 games, 3 catches, 38 yards. Not a lot of production. His 40-yard dash in the pre-draft, pretty solid at that size of 6'4", 215. And he's been able to use his body to go up and get it throughout training camp, to make physical plays on some Eagles DBs. There was a play the other day in practice where he shook Eli Ricks out of his shoes and then was able to scamper about 15 yards to the end zone. His relative athletic score coming out of San Jose State, pretty good here. 8.45. That was good enough to be in the green. Excellent size at 6'3", 218 in the pre-draft, right? And then the Eagles obviously list him a little bit bigger than that. And outside of that, 16 reps of the bench, that was average. The vertical jump, 37.5. This is a wide receiver who can go up and get it. I'm excited to see if he can do that in the preseason. I'm excited to see if his play can translate to game action in the preseason. I like the 40, frankly, at the size that he is, 4.51. The shuttle, okay. The 3-cone, not great. And then there is Darius Cooper, the other wideout. He is a UDFA from this year's draft class, right? He really thrived last year at Tarleton State running slants, go routes, and he too can come down with some of those contested footballs. He ran a 4.49 40-yard dash at 213 pounds, 18 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press. So he is a yoked athlete who's very strong, great size at 213 pounds, and last year, probably the best FCS wide receiver in 2024, as he had nearly 1,500 yards, and he really turned it on toward the end of the year. Howie Roseman really does value the relative athletic scores. It's how you can gauge an athlete on a scale from 0 to 10, and so Cooper is another player who scored well in the pre-draft, an 8.58, so a similar score there to Elijah Cooks, 5'11", 213 in the pre-draft, the 18 reps of 225. He is very strong with his upper body, and then he's very twitchy too. A vertical leap of nearly 40 inches, a broad jump of more than 10 feet, and I really like that range of the 4.4 40-yard dash. Elite 20-yard split, and like Elijah Cooks, Darius Cooper has been making a lot of plays throughout training camp. Now, I think Cooks is more of a true player to make the 53-man roster, whereas I think it's more realistic for Cooper to be a developmental piece on the Eagles practice squad. But these are two players who I will be watching closely throughout these preseason games. You're set with your top 3 wide receivers, AJ, Smitty, Dotson. But the last 2 wide receiver spots, and maybe a third if the Eagles hold on to 6 on the initial 53, that's to be determined, they are up for grabs right now. So we'll see if there are roster politics that play out. And what I mean by that is that the Eagles drafted Anaya Smith and Johnny Wilson last year. Nick Sirianni likes Smith's quickness and burst. He likes Wilson's ability to block because he's 6'6", 6'7". But they haven't done much throughout training camp this year. And they really didn't do much to impress me last year as rookies. Now, it made sense why they made the team last year because you drafted them then. But does their draft standing lead to them making the team this year when they would be making the roster over players who were better than them? That's the roster politicking that I'm talking about here. So let me know down in the comment section who rounds out that wide receiver room for Philadelphia.